this area and Montreal and Maine and the Northeast would be clear, and that where we were in southern Texas would be cloudy. And I suggested that we switch our plans at the last minute, but we were overruled by my friends who said that we were committed to be with this group and we have to be with this group. And so I was in Leakey, Texas, and it was pretty cloudy that morning. And we got occasional views of the incoming partial. But as totality approached, the clouds thickened, and the sky got darker and darker and darker. And because the moon shadow was so large, it got colder, freezing cold, shivering cold. And you can see and feel the temperature drop by the instant. And one of the women in the group said, would you mind, at the start of totality, doing a quote for us, a poem. We're not going to see the eclipse, but maybe we'll get a poem. And I said, I agreed to do that. And I was going to quote Shakespeare's comment about eclipses from Macbeth, but at the last minute I remembered Wendy's favorite poem, and I decided to go with that. So suddenly the darkness stopped getting worse. I figured we were in total eclipse, and I recited the poem from Ralph Hodgson's The Song of Honor. And if you don't mind, I'll say it right now. I stood and stared. The sky was lit. The sky was stars all over it. I stood. I knew not why. Without a wish, without a will. I stood upon that silent hill and stared into the sky until my eyes were blind with stars, and still I stared into the sky. And I think the audience enjoyed it, and they enjoyed that I had used Wendy's favorite poem. Not 20 seconds later, there's the corona. It's just there, just appeared. And we saw it for about 30 seconds, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. I've seen 12 totals, but nothing was as pretty as this. And then we plotted over again, and then at the end of totality, I got to see the most beautiful view of Bailey's Beads that I've ever seen. You know who discovered Bailey's Beads?
I do, but I'd like you to tell our listeners, because most people think it's
Francis Bailey.
Right.
It wasn't. It was Edmund Halley, our friend from Comet fame, about 123 years earlier, and he described them perfectly. And he always trusts the Comet guy to do that. And it was really so much beautiful, but the eclipse was over, it got cloudy again, and I was overwhelmed by a wave of sadness. Wendy had told me at the 2017 eclipse, she said, I want to stay alive so badly to see the 2024. And she didn't. I had to see it from both of us. And all of a sudden, I was overwhelmed with this wave of sorrow. I left the group. I went and sat down in a private spot, facing away, and I cried my eyes out for about an hour. I was non-functional. I had fallen apart like an old, worn-out part. And I knew I was, I just couldn't stop crying. And now I know that whenever I do something that's really meaningful, like seeing an eclipse, or a lecture like yesterday, it starts getting to me because Wendy's not there. And she was responsible for the happiest, most useful years of my life.